Hey guys, EDDBUD here, and today I'm talking about the Nike AIR ZOOM ALPHAFLY NEXT % after 100 miles. So we've hit the 100-mile milestone in the ALPHAFLY NEXT %. This is a shoe I picked up back in March. It was from somebody who was actually part of the marathon trials over in the US in February. They were gifted the shoe and never wore it, so I got it. These are the most expensive of Nike's running line in 2020. So how are they holding up after 100 miles? Let's dive in. And we'll start with the upper first. I can report only good things here, people. The materials here are durable, and I can report no signs of wear whatsoever. There's no degradation at all to any parts of the upper that I can see anyway. No stitching coming apart, no fraying. The steamed atom knit mesh on this one is as good as the day I took it out of the box. I've got to be honest, over the recent months I've put this pair through the ringer. They've been out in lots of very wet weather and they're holding up really well. It's grime city out there right now. In fact, as I just started the camera rolling, the wind is howling once again. The last few miles in these earlier, it was absolutely beautiful. The sun was out, the rain had stopped, but things have changed quickly. The fit within this shoe has stayed consistent right the way through. From the first time that I levered myself into the shoe, I didn't have a shoehorn to hand, to today when I took them up to 100, the fits stayed pretty much the same all the way. I'd suggest the upper's not the best for colder conditions. I mean, you can see through this shoe if you hold it up to the light. But, I mean, for every cloud, there's a silver lining. That does mean that moisture can escape very quickly from this upper. It's had to do that quite a few times recently where I've been testing it out. I mean, this upper's got more holes in it than there are plot holes in The Last Jedi. Lacing system here is a tie and forget kind of style. Those are the best ones, don't you think? I haven't had a single issue with those notched laces. They still do remind me of something out of Mrs. EDDBUD's sewing box. Once locked down, the fit stays consistent throughout a run. I've got to be honest, the upper here is a real triumph. I'm going to give it a 2.8 out of 3 after 100 miles. Just don't wear it in the cold unless you've got some thick socks. Before we get into the next section of the video, if you're new to the channel and you haven't done so already, please hit that subscribe button and click the bell below for notifications of when we launch those new videos. Midsole now. So I feel straight off the bat with these that there's very little change in the midsole feel whatsoever at 100 miles. Aside from a little compression across the midsole from heel to toe, it's only about 2 mil possibly. I did measure them up against the brand new pair I've got. They're right behind me. And consulted my notes from when I initially got the shoe, and it's only a couple of mil difference, so not a lot of compression there. I suggest there's a slightly more mellowed out feeling here in the midsole. The feeling underfoot does change a little bit, slightly less rigid than it was, certainly in the forefoot and midfoot area, but I think that's to be expected from any running shoe really once you've put some miles into it. It's a far from dull ride though now in the ALPHAFLY, and I think it's proved that those AirPods here do provide some exceptional staying power. No issues with mine, they're still operational. I've seen a few horror stories though of people wearing these and then bursting straight away. These still feel really nice to the touch. It's a little bit like bubble wrap. Really interesting to see how these have been used across multiple different Nike models in 2020. Obviously we've seen these in the Tempo Next % here. Slightly different implementation I would suggest. Also in the LeBron 17 basketball shoes and the gym aimed Super Rep as well. Not to forget the oversized units in the forefoot area of the Zoom Air Rise 2 as well. In the Rise 2 it looks like they're almost double the length, those units, doesn't it? I gotta say, at 100 miles the midsole response toasts the Vaporfly 4% Flyknit at the same mileage as well. There's nowhere near as much compression in the midsole, and when I've done an A/B test between the new pair and this pair, there's very little difference underfoot. Pretty much all of the miles that I've put into this shoe have been within my threshold pace zone. So for me that's about 146 beats per minute to about 164 beats per minute. I'm aiming for a half marathon target of 6 minutes 50 per mile average, so to get in under 1 hour 30. So that's round about where I am right now, and most of the work I've put into this shoe has been at that pace. I've got to say the midsole here does really benefit you in terms of lessening fatigue and keeping your legs feeling fresher. There's not been a day after a hard run in these where I haven't been able to run again. They really do keep your legs fresh. I think a superb midsole here that once you put some miles into it and gain some experience with it, using it provides you with a really propulsive ride. A very different feel to the Vaporfly Next Percent underfoot. I'd suggest a little more aggressive actually, and you have to be a little bit more mindful about your foot strike. I feel this one's far more stable than the Next Percent, certainly more stable than the 4% Flyknit, which is odd considering the increased stack height. Do I prefer this one to the Vaporfly Next Percent? Yes, I think I do. Pretty much from all perspectives actually. A joy to run in, this shoe. It never really feels to me like I've been hammering it at those higher paces, and I'm never left feeling like I'm going to fall to bits. I'm going to give this a 3 out of 3 for the midsole after 100 miles. Outsole next. So aside from a few marks here, or at least areas where it appears that the paint has started to come off of the midsole, there's not really an awful lot of wear. As a lot of people say these Vaporfly or Alphafly shoes aren't very durable, and I've never had any issues with the Next Percent falling apart, and certainly the Alphafly here is very promising in terms of durability. You can see here on the swoosh that the paint's started to come off a little bit. Well, it appears that way, but it looks like some water's in fact got underneath the outer layer of the paint a little bit. I think the paint's still there. There's a little bit of wrinkling on the midsole here, which is what you'd expect really from this foam. It's very, very compressive. Nowhere near as bad though that I've seen on the 4% Flyknit in the past. In the midfoot and the forefoot section here, the rubber is a little bit mottled and somewhat rough to the touch now, which it wasn't straight out of the box. To be honest, I think the grip's actually improved on this one the more miles I've put into it. The Alphafly certainly handles wet weather better than both the 4% Flyknit and the Next Percent. Traction's just unaffected really on any slippery surfaces. There's still lots of lug depth left here, and I'd say it's probably better than ever in this area. The rubber here does feel different in terms of its consistency. When I pair it up against the Tempo Next Percent, for example, it's a little bit softer here, but I'm very happy with the wear so far. Not considerable by any stretch of the imagination. In the heel, there's no perceived wear there at all in those two rubber strips that run on either side. Down to better design perhaps? Maybe they've used higher quality materials? Or is it improved form? I shall let you guys at home decide on that. Hard to fault the outsole here on the Alphafly, even on grass with a midfoot strike is certainly quite usable still, and that's really saying something. Some of the other racing options this year, you couldn't use them on grass at all. People often ask me about that, like, why do you talk about running on grass? Well, there's actually a lot of races here in the UK that might start or end on parks or grass sections. So after 100 miles, I'm going to give this a 2.8 out of 3 for the outsole. Just a little bit worried about the bobbling here and that paint that's come off. Hopefully the water hasn't got underneath the paint. That's what I'm worried about. Value now. I've got to say guys, this is the Achilles heel really of the shoe. It's a punishing price. Value wise, it's really tough to point people towards this shoe. I guess you can understand why I say that. I mean, we've seen the rise of the Adidas Adizero Adios Pro recently at only £170, which is basically £100 or Earth credits cheaper than this one. It's wallet saddening, that one, isn't it? This is a technological terror of a shoe, and with the price being so high, the plucky Adidas almost looks like a value option. Ooh. Though I did just look on the internet to see how much the shoe was, check the price, and you can't buy it anywhere. Apart from eBay, where people are trying to sell the Adizero Adios Pro for £400. It's like 2.5 times its retail price. What's wrong with the world? People selling PlayStations at like triple the price. People selling Adios Adizero Pros at 2.5 times the price. Come on. I like both of those shoes, but I'd suggest that this has a slight edge for me over the Adidas Adizero Adios Pro. But I don't think it's worth the 100 Earth credits extra. It's not that much of a bonus, it's not that much of a boon. Thus, the value score is going to be impacted somewhat. I'm going to give this one 2.2 out of 3 after 100 miles for value. I mean, it's going to easily make 200 miles, it'll probably make 300 miles, no problem. I see few flaws in the shoe, aside from that bonkers price. And I think that is a bit of a deal breaker when you consider the rise of the Adizero Adios Pro. So if I've totaled the scores up correctly, that gives us 10.8 out of 12 for the Nike AIR ZOOM ALPHAFLY Next Percent. I love this shoe, but you cannot escape the fact that it is a very expensive option. And there's so many other options out there right now. I don't feel that it's worth the extra 100 Earth credits than a lot of the others. Have you worn this shoe? How did it feel to you? Let me know, let me know, let me know down in the comments. A Christmas related musical interlude today. I found a Christmas track I'd never heard before. It's called Chillin' with Santa by Derek B. You know, I talked about Derek B a little while ago. This is particularly good, this one. 808 drum machine beats in the background. It's a nice crisp and clear delivery from Derek. That lays a solid foundation for this Christmas cake. But the icing on the top of the cake is Derek B's version of the 12 Days of Christmas, but with rap and hip-hop related items, I suppose. He's got some new Adidas under the tree, and a new pair of socks from someone as well. It's kind of strange. Sounded like he was having a real ball making this one though, and it's got some good beats, so go and check that one out, one I'd never heard before. Derek B with Chillin' with Santa. It might bring a smile to your face though, and that's got to be worth it, right? Thanks for tuning in and sticking with me to the end of the video today, guys. I very much appreciate it. If you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button and click the bell below so you'll get notifications of when I launch those new videos. And it really does help the channel out massively if you give this video a thumbs up like and share it with your running buddies. My name's EDDBUD, and I'll be seeing you